Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to this memorial service for Chris, who I know meant so much to you and touched each of your lives in different and insignificant ways. My name is Pat Kenny, and I am Chris's brother-in-law. I am married to his sister Rachel, and I have travelled from Ireland at the request of Chris's family to represent them today. Just a short while ago, a smaller number of us were able to be present in the nearby crematorium. Now we have an opportunity for more of his friends to gather together and remember him. Chris touched the lives of so many people. He was deeply loved. And perhaps, as is inevitable, death makes the reality of that love even more tangible for us. Many people are heartbroken at his untimely death, but none more so than his family. The fact that they are on the other side of the world and cannot be here today surely adds to that sense of loss. Chris was part of a very large family. In the first place, I want to mention his parents, Graham and Terry. While everybody knew the risks that came with Chris's passion for wingsuiting, nothing can prepare a parent for the loss of their child. In a special way, they are in our thoughts and prayers today. Chris was one of 11 children. Genevieve, Margaret, Peter, David, my wife Rachel, James, Matthew, Angela and Tess have all lost a much loved brother. But we think especially about Chris's twin brother Tim. The two boys were the youngest of the very large Byrnes family, and they always shared a special bond. Tim is due to get married in September, and Chris was to be his best man. I know that these days are especially hard for Tim, so we send our special condolences to him. Then there are his brothers and sisters-in-law and too many nieces and nephews to begin to name. Earlier this morning, I placed 49 rose petals in the coffin with Chris's earthly remains, one for each of his immediate family members: 2 parents, 5 brothers, 5 sisters, and 37 nieces and nephews. It is just a small way of connecting them with him in this moment. There are many members of his wider network of family and friends in Australia and indeed all across the world who loved Chris and miss him. They too share in this loss. In our location here in Switzerland, we are more or less in the very heart of Europe. Historically speaking, the culture of Europe is to a large extent built upon the work and the sacrifice of monks who built Western civilization. And many of those monks followed the Benedictine rule. And part of that rule of life told them to remember to keep death before your eyes daily. In many ways, it changed the way they lived and served others and brought them out of themselves and made them more generous. Very often, modern man wants to avoid confronting the reality of death. And who can blame us, because it is a painful thing as we see today. But keeping death daily before our eyes reminds us that the one essential fact we all have in common is that we will all die, and perhaps it may be sooner than we expect. But this doesn't have to make us morbid or depressed. It can lead us to make the most of our lives while we still have them. It reminds us that all we have is temporary, and when we die, we leave it all behind. I think that Chris must have kept death before his eyes every day. He knew many very talented friends and colleagues who predeceased him. He knew that death was a possibility. I've heard him speak of the possibility of death on more than one occasion. And in that context, he spoke about how we should try to make an impact on those around us now, while we are alive. The time to live and the time to love is now. Chris believed that we can touch a person's life for the better and maybe even have a lifelong impact upon them. Something as simple as a smile or reaching out to others to help them can have a huge impact on people, perhaps in ways that we will never know in this life. Reading the many testimonies that have poured in this week make it clear that Chris had a big and positive impact on the lives of others. We've seen various posts on social media that testify to this. Just a small sample that I will read out. I couldn't possibly read out them all. Sven Ugao, apologies if I'm mispronouncing the name, wrote, "We talked about avoiding the list a few weeks ago. I asked you to make videos that we planned to play later when we were old and grey in the old man's home. I was looking forward to flying with you in the summer like we almost did every year." Dave Gervin, "I'm still coming to grips with today's tragedy. The earth has lost a special human. I remember you years ago hugging me on the packing mat at Toogs and saying you wanted to share my good vibes, but I am the one who is privileged to share yours. If there were more like you, Byrnesy, this world would be a better place." Pamela Louise Shaw, "On this day 9 years ago, Facebook reminded me that we were returning from our week-long trip to Gladstone back in our UE days. I remember when you were a Sunny Coast kid with a skateboard who called me man a lot. By the time we came back, you were my friend. I can't believe the world sleeps tonight without you. I'm heartbroken that such a beautiful, kind soul who hunted his dreams is gone. But you did it, kiddo. You lived your dream, and I'm so proud of you. I'm so lucky to have had you as my friend. I will miss you so much and think of you always. You changed so many lives. Rest now, Chris Byrnes." Lisa Miller, "Oh Chris, this one really, really hurts. In just a few short days we were meant to reunite at a day celebrating love, something you cherish just as much as flying, the opportunity to be your authentic self. Your soul shines so bright, good, and you always took the time to let everyone know exactly how much they meant to you. I'll always be grateful for the times we spent together, and how the first year in Australia that was so wildly difficult for me, your raw emotion and ability to say the hard things helped me get through when Matt was away. So rarely do you get to peek into someone's soul the way you let others in, always knowing how quickly a friend can be gone, and how important it is to tell people how you feel about them when you have the chance." Karol Cherowiowski, "Thank you for sharing some of yours with me. You are a kind and infectious person. I often look forward to the day when our paths crossed again. My heart goes out to your family and all the people whose lives you touched." And there are so many other posts like that. I can't read them all out, and I've been particularly impressed from posts from people in Ireland. Chris used to live with us there for a while, more than a decade ago, and he was involved in cricket and also parachuting back then. There are many posts from people who remember him, even back then, stayed in touch with him and followed him on social media and talked about how, even more than a decade ago, the impact that he had on their lives stays with them even today. So while I haven't been able to read out all of those testimonies, Chris's family are aware of them, and they've taken consolation from them. And I'm sure that we'll hear many more such things from others later this morning. But perhaps the simplest and most spontaneous testimony was from my little daughter, Teresa, who just turned 8 yesterday. She hadn't seen Chris since a year or two before COVID, so she was quite young when she last met him. When I told her that Chris was dead, her first reaction was to say, "Oh, I liked him." Yes, Chris touched many people's lives with the passion he put into everything he did. We can all learn from his example and all learn to be better friends from the way he was such a good friend to many others. On this occasion, I am reminded of the words of the famous English statesman Thomas More, who fell foul of Henry VIII and was sentenced to death. In his last letter to his beloved daughter Meg, he wrote, "Farewell, and pray for me, and I shall for you, and for all your friends, that we may meet merrily again in heaven." Yes, dear Chris, let us all pray and hope that we may all one day meet merrily again. We will now take a moment of silence to remember Chris, to reflect on his life, or if it is what you want to do, to pray silently. I have a number of statements from family members of Chris. The first is from his dad Graham, and the family in general have contributed to this. Chris was the youngest child of Graham and Terry Byrnes, 11 children. Chris and his twin brother Tim were born on the 23rd of March 1988, born just 2 minutes apart. They were inseparable and were the best of friends from the start. They loved playing games together, whether it was cricket and footy in the backyard or gladiators in the swimming pool. Chris and Tim often said that having a twin was the best thing that ever happened to them. Chris was always an adventurous child. He took up skateboarding at an early age, and it was his first passion. He became very proficient, especially at doing seemingly never-ending manuals, earning him the moniker around the skate park town as the King of Manuals. Chris was a keen sportsman and excelled at cricket. As a 21-year-old, he played cricket in Ireland and England as a fast bowler. His tall, strong physique was intimidating to many opening batsmen. However, after 2.5 years of semi-professional cricket, Chris suffered a stress fracture in his back, forcing him to end his reign. It was at this time, while watching extreme sports videos on YouTube, that Chris came across Jock Sommer's Dreamlines, inspiring him to take up wingsuiting. In 2014, as his own flying journey began, he slowly began clocking up his skydiving jumps, mainly at Toogoolawah in Queensland. He progressed quickly in wingsuiting, and in 2015 made his first Australian championship. He then progressed quickly to competing in and winning titles and medals in the World Wingsuit League, World Base Race, and the World Championships. In 2016, Chris base jumped for the first time at Snake River Base Academy in the United States. Wingsuit base became his greatest passion, and he worked hard to improve his fitness and technique. One of his dreams was to accumulate a setup that would enable him to camp and wingsuit fully self-sustained, carrying everything with him and leaving no trace. He had a dream of hiking and flying over very long distances unsupported, and was very close to achieving this goal. Chris loved the mountains of Europe, and he set a number of world records, including for base total speed, jumping from the ecstasy board and the Eiger. He also set a distance record at the King's Challenge. This summer, Chris achieved a long-held dream by being the first wingsuiter to record a flare over 100 metres. By all accounts, he was one of the world's top wingsuiters. Chris was well aware of his mortality, and he took it in his stride to share everything that he had learnt with others. His intelligence and generosity with his knowledge were attributes that made him a well-respected coach. He enjoyed helping others achieve their dreams in the sport. As a coach and mentor, he inspired others. And as a son, brother, and uncle, he showed that no dream is too big. As a friend, he was open and transparent and always had love to give. There are strong themes immediately noticeable reading the tributes of Chris on social media. Recounts of the moving conversations, philosophy, and wisdom shared. He inspired countless people and is being mourned all over the world. Chris was a deep thinker with many insights and never shied away from the hard topics in life. He loved philosophy with meditation, especially the philosophy of Alan Watts and Terence McKenna. Chris knew the dangers of the sport well, having lost many close friends. He always planned meticulously before jumping and would hike back down if the conditions were not right, even if it took several hours. On Monday afternoon, he was filming a fellow wingsuiter on an iconic flight route that he had opened and flown several times. Near the edge of the cliff, just before he flared the parachute down, he hit a tree and was killed instantly. We know that Chris will never be forgotten and will always fly free in our hearts. We love you, Chris. And his mum, Terry, has also written, "Thank you all for your kind words about Chris, but especially the ones that acknowledge his weaknesses as well as his strengths. Remember the happy times, but also the difficult times when you overcame challenges that you thought were beyond your strength, when you performed tasks that you didn't feel like doing. Achieving a dream isn't just about collecting accolades or doing what pleases yourself. Sometimes when you work hard all your life doing the job that needs to be done, you find out that you have lived your dream, but your dream was different. The real life is different to the surface fairy floss. It's got roots, it's got shoots, it's got flowers, and it's got fruits. Pleasing yourself is dead long term in more ways than one. I'm not proud of Chris because he was famous. I'm more proud of him because he was kind and hardworking and really cared about his family and friends. The things that really count were the connections he made with people, helping them out, sharing his knowledge and his gifts, being there when it counted. Our lives aren't more meaningful when they are celebrated by many, but when we have shared what is good. If we live for the Lord, and if we die for the Lord. Thank you so much for all who put yourselves out to support us at this terrible time, to ring us up, to help with arranging for today, and to bring Chris and his personal effects home. It is a great comfort to us to know that Chris is surrounded by people who knew him and loved him when we are so far away. We are so grateful to those who have been friends with Chris in his ups and his downs, who helped him when he was struggling, who supported him when he was grieving the deaths of other friends. And now, when all of you are grieving for him with us, I will pray for you as I did for Chris when he was so far away and there was nothing else I could do for him. And I ask you to pray for me and all my family who must keep living on through the nightmare of missing him every day and remembering him as we put in the hard work to pursue our own dreams and support each other in theirs." And Chris's mum has asked us to pray at this moment for those who wish to join in. "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen." Chris's sister Angela has written, "It's very hard to put into words what my brother meant to me. I loved him very much. I had the grace to get a phone call from him just 2 days before he died. It was one of the most beautiful conversations I've ever had with him. He had seen some family photos from a recent family baptism and called to say how much he loved a photo of my daughter Colette. He loved the cheeky look she always had in her eyes. We talked about parenting styles, about the chaos of a large family, and about how much we loved and trusted each other. We talked about great memories of his recent visits, him making us a Mexican breakfast on his birthday, and my son Isaac swinging around a stick like Gandalf's "You shall not pass" we were trying to take a goodbye photo. Chris's nieces and nephews meant so much to him. He was probably their favourite uncle due to his boundless energy and teasing. He loved life and they knew it. They miss you, Chris, we all do. You'll always be present in our hearts. My wife Rachel writes, "When Mum was pregnant with Chris, I really wanted another little sister. And when I heard he was a boy, I was mad, and I didn't even want to see him. But of course, as soon as I did, I fell in love with him instantly. From then on, he was a source of such joy for me. I think it was like that for many others, as Chris had a great charisma and attraction. His life was a gift. We will miss him." His sister Tess. "My heart is absolutely broken, and I don't know if I will ever feel whole again. Our beautiful Chris is gone, and it still does not seem real. Chris lit up this world with his incredible personality, sparkle, charisma, determination, focus, and inherent kindness. He touched the hearts of everyone around him, and the void he has left will be felt by anyone who ever knew him. They broke the mold when they made you, Chris. I will always be proud of everything that you are. You will always be with us." As for myself, I have many memories of Chris, but one in particular is that, well, the green flying dude didn't just arrive when he started skydiving or wingsuiting or base jumping. Back in 2009, he was staying with us for a while in Ireland, and we had planned a trip to Rome. And he was going to Rome as myself, his sister, my wife Rachel, our eldest child, and his sister Angela, who was also with us at the time. And it was one of those horrible early morning flights where you have to get up at 3:30 and be at the airport by 4. And Chris, being Chris, was out rather late the night before, and never in my life have I ever experienced it so hard to wake anybody up. Actually, I thought he was never going to wake up. I don't know what time he came in, but we were shaking him, pulling him. We were rushing to get to the airport. I almost had to pour water on him to wake him up. And then we got him up and the car wouldn't start, and then he couldn't find the passport, and we had to call a taxi, and it was all a bit chaotic. So he grabbed a bag and we went. And when we got to the airport, he discovered that the bag he picked up was the wrong one, and he picked up his cricket training gear. So the only thing he brought to Rome with him for 4 or 5 days was his dirty and unwashed shorts and t-shirt and cricket spikes. And when he got to security, he realised he had these cricket spikes on him, and he threw them away because he didn't know he could get them through security. And he didn't have any other clothes with him in Rome, but he did buy, and it's a pity we don't have a screen to share it, he did buy a bright neon green pair of sunglasses in Rome because he didn't have sunglasses with him for €20, and he was giving out the price of these sunglasses, €20 in Rome. But he wore those sunglasses for a long time, and they were exactly the same colour as this. So the green flying dude was really born in Rome in 2009. I remember him for many other reasons. The help he gave us around the house when he stayed with us. He built a chicken coop for us. He had been a carpenter, of course, and helped us in many ways. And it struck my wife and I the other day. Our youngest son is just 1, and he has blonde curly hair, and we're wondering where the blonde curly hair comes from. And then in recent days it just struck us. My wife said he looks exactly like she remembered Chris, walking around the house with just a nappy on, big smiley face, blonde hair and curls and blue eyes. So we can see him in our youngest. So at this moment I'll hand the floor over to anyone who wants to share any feelings or memories of Chris. And we have this building here until 12:30. We don't have to stay that long, but if you want, you're free to come up and share some memories or thoughts. There's one thing we would ask though, because this event is being live streamed and it's being recorded, and Chris's mum and dad and his 10 siblings and 37 nieces and nephews are watching. Some of them are quite young. Just to bear that in mind and keep any stories appropriate for a family audience, and afterwards if there's other types of stories you want to tell. There may be an occasion for that. So I think James, who was a good mate and is helping out a lot, and James, I just want to say the family is very appreciative of all the help you've given. So thank you for being Chris's mate, and thank you for all the help you've given. So here you go.
Hi everyone, here and around the world. I'm James. I'm one of Chris's mates from Australia, but I was here in Atterbury when he passed. Chris packed more living into his 34 years on Earth than most people do in a lifetime. A truly talented, humble and genuine person whose greatest joy in life was helping others to achieve their dreams. I'm so grateful for all the adventures that we had together at home and abroad, and the overwhelming impact that he had on my life and the life of so many others. I'm so grateful that we got to spend some really good quality time together the night before his final jump. And while there's no good way to go, I think it's fitting that his final flight was on Dreamlines. This is the jump that brought him the most joy and initially inspired his passion for human flight. I know the incredible work, courage and skill required for him to be the first person to fly this iconic line from a cliff and not from a helicopter. It was probably his greatest achievement in the wingsuiting world, and is a beautiful end to an incredible story. There are so many amazing acts that showed just how incredible and selfless he was as a person. Like when I showed him footage of me jumping out of a hot air balloon in 2017 to show him the quality of my exits. I told him that I was going to Europe to learn to wingsuit base jump, but I couldn't find a coach. Within the hour, he'd booked a ticket to Europe, and he spent a month showing me all around Europe and teaching me so much, both about wingsuiting and about life. Or during the Australian Nationals wingsuiting competition, when he noticed that my tail wing had blown out the day before the comp when he was filming my speed runs. When I landed, I walked back to the packing area and he was already taking off his own wingsuit. And he gave it to me for the comp to fly instead of him. So I did the comp in his suit. We're the exact same size, and we're the only two people in the country that were flying that particular model. He just used another suit that he had on him that he hadn't really dialed in, and of course he beat me. Well, when I was going through a really tough time in my life, and he suggested we just go to Tonsai in Thailand just to do some chilled jumps and drink cocktails on the beach all day. We both got wildly sick, but we had an amazing time together. He even jumped a leopard onesie, and he accidentally landed in the water in front of a massive crowd of people at the bar. He was so embarrassed, but everyone just loved him more, and that's the kind of guy he was. Also, some of the non-base and wingsuiting related memories. Like when my sister bleached and dyed his mullet for the Pink Test, which is a cricket match in Australia to raise money for cancer. Because he just really wanted to make people smile, and he spent the whole day at the cricket with everyone just coming up to him and taking selfies and photos, and he was all dressed in pink with this dirty pink mullet, which is the same mullet that he had in Thailand when we were there. Or the really deep conversations that we had together, and I know he had with so many other people, that just showed how complex, philosophical and wise a person he really was. A side that I'm personally so grateful to have seen in him. He will be sorely missed by so many who he's impacted over the years. Fly free, Chris. I promise to keep you safe on the flight home. I'll take you back to your family. I promise your legacy will live on here in the mountains and at home in Australia. Chris's favourite philosopher was Alan Watts. He said that he really helped him so much in life in all of his talks. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to play a clip that was his favourite clip that inspired his iconic 3, 2, 1 dream exit and his final words.
Let's suppose that you were able every night to dream any dream you wanted to dream. And that you could, for example, have the power within one night to dream 75 years of time. Or any length of time you wanted to have. This adventure of dreams, you would fulfill all your wishes. You would have every kind of pleasure. And after several nights of 75 years of total pleasure each, you would say, well, that was pretty great. But now let's have a surprise. Let's have a dream which isn't under. Well, something is going to happen to me that I don't know what it's going to be. And you would dig that and come out of that and say, wow, that was a close shave, wasn't it? Then you would get more and more adventurous, and you would make further and further out gambles as to what you would dream. And finally, you would dream where you are now. You would dream the dream of living the life that you are actually living today. That would be within the infinite multiplicity of choices you would have, of playing that you weren't God. Because the whole nature of the Godhead, according to this idea, is to play that he's not. The first thing he says to himself is, man, get lost. He gives himself away. The nature of love is self-abandonment, not clinging to oneself. Throwing yourself out, as in, for example, in basketball, you're always getting rid of the ball. You say to the other fellow, have a ball. See? And that keeps things moving. That's the nature of life. So in this idea, then, everybody is fundamentally the ultimate reality. Not God in a politically kingly sense, but God in the sense of being the self, the deep down basic whatever there is. And you're all that, only you're pretending you're not.
I'm just going to cite some Alan Watts. I was going to go with the dream as I remember it by heart, but I'll go with what is love because it's pretty much as applicable. Not really when we go back down to falling in love and say, it's crazy, falling. You see, we don't say rising into love. There's in it the idea of the fall. And this goes back to a matter of fact to extremely fundamental things. That there's always a curious tie at some point between the fall and the creation. Taking this gaspy risk is the condition of there being life. For all, life is an act of fate and an act of gamble. The moment we take a journey, we do so on an act of faith, because we don't really know if the floor is not going to give under our feet. The moment we take a step, we do so on an act of faith. The moment we enter into any kind of human undertaking or relationship, what an act of faith. See, we've given ourselves up, and this is the most powerful thing to be done, surrender. And love is an act of surrender to another person. It's total abandonness. You give yourself, take me, do anything you want with me. And there, it's quite mad. It's letting things get out of control. All sensible people keep things in control. So we come to this strange conclusion that in madness lies sanity.
So there are many people sitting here in silence and crying and reflecting and remembering Chris, remembering what he meant to their lives, an unforgettable person. So on behalf of the family, I want to thank you for coming, thank you for being his friend, thank you for helping him in whatever ways you did, as I'm sure you're thanking him for whatever way that he helped you. So thank you for coming, and take care and look after each other.